weeks of simmering racial tension in Oldham finally erupted last night as more than 500 Asian youths fought pitched battles with riot police. Armed with bricks and petrol bombs and aiming fireworks at police, the mob rampaged across the town's Brodick estate throughout the night and into the early hours of this morning.
But how did the far right tip a relatively peaceful, multicultural community into race-hate chaos? Less than 20 years ago, Oldham was overwhelmingly white. Now Asians make up 11% of the population, and the two communities rarely mix. When, in April, a 76-year-old war veteran, Walter Chamberlain, was assaulted by Asian thugs. The story made national headlines.
Apart from the severity of the injuries, this attack has shaken Oldham because it came just days after a group of Asian youths were reported to be threatening to set up no-go areas in the town where whites would not be allowed.
This is the ghetto, this is what we call poverty.
But the mayor's talk of respect and inclusiveness doesn't extend to the street. If you're poor and black in Memphis, you see Hispanics as a threat. A threat not so much to your past, but to your future livelihood.
The Latinos, they taking all the jobs.
Most Hispanics live in fear of the blacks. This is their turf, they're the newcomers. Antonio Castro is one of the very few Hispanic police officers in the city. Antonio knows that Hispanics are often the victims of crime, but they don't trust the authorities, so most of it goes unrecorded.
Many of the Hispanics who've arrived here in the city, they've come with an idea of law enforcement as being something negative, where they really want nothing to do with. So often I encounter Hispanics who'll tell me, you know, Officer Castro, I was robbed 2-3 months ago. You know, someone stuck a gun in my face and robbed me. And I said, well, did you report it? Did you? He said, well, no, I didn't report it.
More and more Hispanics are moving in here, and as they do so, they're creating more and more friction, rubbing up against the black community. Hispanics here are complaining of being attacked and victimized by black gangs.
Now, racism appears to be a huge worry right here in Halifax, where we're holding this debate. Just search the Dalhousie University website for racism, and you will get hundreds of pages of hits. Here are some of the results I got just a few days ago. Racism within the healthcare system, racism in the criminal justice system, the racism inherent in white civilization, racism in Shakespeare's The Tempest, everyday racism in medical school, the systemic racism that is prevalent in Nova Scotia, contemporary representations of racism in children's books, systemic racism in the Ontario criminal justice system. It goes on and on and on. By golly, racism is everywhere. And this is just a tiny sample of the hits on the webpage. I'd also add that a recent survey by Statistics Canada finds that no fewer than half of blacks in Canada say they have suffered from discrimination, racial discrimination, a third of South Asians and Chinese. Now, Statistics Canada never apparently asks whites whether they have been victims of racism. And a 2003 report on immigrants living in West Central Toronto found that no fewer than 68% had suffered housing discrimination alone, much less any other kind. I might add also that in 2004, the Dominion Institute, they did a big poll of Canadians. They found that 65% said that there had been no change in the level of racism in the last 5 years. 14% said there had been a decrease, but 17% said there had been an increase in racism in the last 5 years. I ask you, is Canada losing the fight against racism?
Because it's something that is clearly hate-oriented and also clearly focused on white people. It's hate crimes. That is what it is. The topic I'm talking about is farm murders. Now, this is real, and this is gruesome. So I'm warning you now that, I'm going to put images on the screen in a minute or two, that if you are queasy and if you are a young child and if you don't like graphic images, then please do not look. It was just somebody coming in, raping the woman, killing the baby, fucking around with the man, and eventually shooting him without any reason. TV is not stolen, the cell phone's not stolen, money is still there, everything is still there.
Hello, my name is Adriana State. I'm a journalist, retired. I've been recording a horrible event for the past 10 years which has escaped the notice of a foreign news media about the South African situation. There's been a mini pogrom of the Afrikaners in South Africa, despite promises by Nelson Mandela that after 1994, when the ANC took over governance of the country, there would be no violence against any whites. This is proven to be a lie, an out-and-out lie. There's a mini program going on targeting Afrikaners at all levels of society. The farmers are being murdered in their homesteads. Their wives are being raped, humiliated, slaughtered at a large rate.
White people in this country are targeted and killed because they are white.
When the children of Afrikaners cycle on the streets, they get run down by cars driven by black drivers who laugh as they drive off. There's no rights for Afrikaners left in South Africa.
Okay, cameras on. I'm with Peter and Kerry Etheridge. This is their farm that we're seeing, Stockdale Farm. It's just been taken up. Militia.
You can't see, there's there, that one with the hat on, dog, standing in the gate. Take a video of him.
Need to just drive forward a little bit.
They are standing around the house, around the sheds. I don't know. He's got a can of mace. He's got something in his hand.
They're all over the place. Garvey's war vets are on the move again. We're seeing more and more of this as the election gets closer and closer.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Telling another guy to go behind us here through the bush. There's 2 guys there. 3 guys. Oh, there's quite a few there.
Kicking up stones. Okay, let's go back.
Drive!
Keep going.
Come on, man!
Okay, my window's open. My window's open.
Drive!
Okay, cameras on. What are you doing here?
I'm here for my land.
For your land?
Yes.
Okay.
That you take it. Tell me.
This is my home, Mr.
It is your home. Well, you're in the wrong home. Who did you pay? The African, or you paid another white fellow?
We paid transfer duties to the Zimbabwe government. I was coming to see where you lived.
And do what?
Well, if you want to steal my house, maybe you can give me your house.
The land belongs to the black peasants. The land belongs to the black peasants. There are a lot of Africans in
So is
Harare.
Minister Shamir a black peasant?
He's a minister like any other black person that deserves land. Look at you. You're so greedy.
I'm so greedy. So you come and steal my house. You come and steal my farm.
You are sitting on
and you say that I'm greedy.
I will sleep here until you are out. And I mean it. I want you out.
Can a white person not be a Zimbabwean anymore?
We don't want to have anything to do with you people.
Just because we're white, eh?
Anyway, I'm not talking to you anymore. You can take it wherever you want. I'm happy. And I'm telling you, the land belongs to us. End of story.
Things will definitely get worse, especially for the white people. It is now what you call the reverse apartheid. Before, back in the day, in the 1970s, early 80s, when it was the whites and the blacks, it's now the blacks and the whites. And I mean, and no one seems to give a shit about the white people anymore. I mean, look at all the white farmers being killed off.
And this video will deal with Uhuru, or genocide in South Africa. The words that quote, "When Mandela dies, we'll kill the whites like flies." A lot of them would want to get rid of the whites in South Africa through violent means. And this is very obvious. At firstly, you can look at the songs that they sing.
The violent words of these songs are sometimes accompanied by the burning of the enemy's flags
like Umshiniwa, which Jacob Zuma recently sang in front of the media, which basically means bring back my machine gun. Also, you can look at the gruesome fashion in which whites are currently being murdered, whereby these perpetrators make it well known that they are taking revenge for apartheid. Also, something that you have to experience for yourself is the hate that we experience out in our streets as white people, where we are looked upon as being arrogant merely for being there in our own country. Because we are white, we are being classified as Europeans, and we don't belong in Africa because we are white.
And often deadly underside. Fruit farmer Herman de Jager knows that only too well. He had to watch his father die in his arms after he'd been shot in the face by intruders. Now every night he prepares to fight to the death to protect what he sees as his birthright. The white farmers have little faith in the local police to catch the attackers, so they've set up their own patrols in an attempt to keep their community safe. But even they couldn't save Kali Buerta's elderly parents. Charlie Buerta, who was 71, had his Achilles tendon cut so he couldn't flee, and was then hacked in the back till he died. His body was covered and dumped in the bush. His wife Joey had her head stoved in by a brick wielded with such force her skull cracked like an egg as she watched TV at home.
Their colleagues who have already died in what they call plaasmoorde, farm murders, and that number is going up all the time.
To stop this kind of very racial attack on the basis of the colour of one's skin.
There's one faction that says they don't want to see a white face between Mutare and Plumtree, which is from the east to the west of the country. Unfortunately, the man who said that is in our area.
We kill one of them, they come kill one of us.
They're getting more violent.
We are the most culturally diverse city. We're also the most segregated.
In a racially charged war, everyone becomes a target.
Blacks, they got that animosity, you know, like, our race is better than yours.
You saw that you wouldn't even see in a horror movie.
And no one sees an end in sight.
If they could stop gangbanging, don't you think they would have stopped it already?
That battle has now escalated to a race war. Innocent people are being targeted for having the wrong color skin.
The Hispanics had a green light on dark. If they would shoot you. Didn't matter if you're a gang member, mom and pop, grandma, didn't matter.
As battle lines are drawn street by street, entire communities have been taken hostage. The South LA neighborhood of Harbor Gateway has been a predominantly Hispanic community since the 1970s. Today, Hispanics mainly live in the area north of 206th Street.
This is the dividing line. This is the line and the street that African Americans could not cross over without fear of murder, fear of racial violence to themselves and their families and loved ones.
Hispanics who claimed the territory north of 206th Street saw the influx of African Americans as a threat, began attacking blacks to assert their dominance. They went after innocent civilians.
Get out of town by sundown. I say if they don't get out of town, we kill the men, we kill the women, we kill the children, we kill the babies. He said, well, why kill them all? Why? So shut down the military manufacturing center by killing the white woman. I said, then you go to the goddamn grave and dig them up and kill them a goddamn again because they didn't die hard enough.